Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm Emily Rapley with Becker's Healthcare. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation and we'll have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into your control panel in the space labeled Enter a Question for Staff and clicking Send. We look forward to hearing your questions. Additionally, throughout today's webinar, we will have several poll questions for the audience. The questions will pop up automatically on your screen. You can then select your answer from the options and click Submit. Thank you in advance for your participation. In about a week following the webinar, we will send you a copy of the presentation to the email you used to register. At this time, it is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to Kristen Harper to begin today's presentation.
Thanks, Emily. Hello, I'm Kristen Harper, Vice President of Global Wound Care and Thermal for Cardinal Health. We're here today to talk about striking the balance of operational and clinical priorities for optimal skin health. With more than 460 of you registered to join us today, we can see that this is an issue that we need to be talking about. So welcome. I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Kathy Milne is a board-certified advanced practice wound, ostomy, continence nurse, international lecturer, and co-editor of Wound Ostomy Continence Secrets. We're lucky to have her as an outside clinical consultant to the skin health team at Cardinal Health. Welcome, Kathy.
Thanks, Kristen.
Next, we have Harish Patel, an R&D director and research fellow with Cardinal Health. Harish has been awarded more than 22 product patents to bring better health and comfort to those living with incontinence and wound infections.
Glad to be here, Christine. Thank you.
Finally, we have our in-house clinical expert, Beth Hawkins-Bradley, an RN, MN, and certified wound ostomy and continence nurse who serves as the principal education specialist for Cardinal Health. Beth has many publications, is a podium lecturer, and has provided continuing education programs nationwide. Prior to Cardinal Health, she provided WOCN consulting and education services in private practice for 17 years. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Kristen.
Today, we will discuss issues and solutions around creating optimal skin health within a healthcare system. We will explain the importance of proper product quality selection and use, identify how science is contributing to skin health, innovation, and quality, and discuss how cross-category thinking and staff education can impact clinical and economic outcomes. During today's session, we'll be polling you to see where you stand, but first we'd like to share a summary of the webinar registration question. What is your biggest challenge to balancing economic needs and clinical priorities? And this is what you told us. Financial pressures to balance cost and quality are your #1 concern. Besides the lack of budget, you're balancing costs versus outcomes. Second, balancing diverse, conflicting stakeholder interests is the next most prevalent concern. In your words, this includes, quote, navigating politics, personal preference over evidence, and achieving a culture of collaborative problem solving in siloed institutions. As you can see, there were a host of other themes. So thank you so much for your responses. It really helped us to tailor today's presentation and discussion to focus on what you care about most. So when you look at the link between wound prevention and treatment, you can see that skin health is mission critical to whole patient wellness. In the U.S., chronic wounds affect around 6.5 million patients and cost $25 billion annually for treatment.
Yes, Kristen, chronic wound patients often suffer from, quote, highly branded, unquote, diseases such as obesity and diabetes. A major study points out that these diseases may have overshadowed the importance of wounds as a major health problem in themselves. The study characterized chronic wounds, often disguised as comorbid conditions, as a silent epidemic. Just a warning, since we're talking about chronic wounds, the next slide is not going to be pretty, but it's a reminder about how serious these wounds can get. Skin health matters, and it encompasses a continuum from intact skin, skin at risk, to open wounds and intact skin that require treatment in so many areas, such as surgical wounds, repeated cellulitis, skin tears, incontinence-associated dermatitis, and pressure injuries. Of course, unhealthy skin combined with pressure or incontinence can become a pressure injury adverse event or a non-healing skin tear or friction injury. These events cost facilities quality ratings and therefore dollars. By maintaining skin health, we may prevent many adverse events.
So then, Beth, a good skin health program obviously would involve many parts of the whole organization. What goes into creating a good skin health program?
To achieve all of this, Kristen, there must be a strong infrastructure. There should be products that are available and protocols that guide their use, and then training to make sure that everybody is providing care in the same manner. Then there should be strong collaboration and communication among all levels of the organization to achieve a strong skin health program, and that's mission critical.
So that leads us back to the idea of prevention. The most manageable wound is the one that never happens.
Well, a strong skin health program is not going to happen without action. There must be focused planning.
That's very true. To prevent wounds and extra costs from occurring, you have to take intentional action.
But it can be hard to be proactive because of the many tensions between decision makers and their competing priorities. And that leads us to our first question for our audience today. Which statement do you believe to be most true about achieving optimal skin health? We'll give you some time to read the answers and to make your selection, and then we'll share the results. But I want to ask you, Kathy, when it comes to preventing pressure injuries, you've said that we're not ready for a victory lap yet.
Yes, the case that I'm thinking of is an issue of how data is collected. Researchers at the University of Michigan looked at the differences between two data streams for measuring the incidence of hospital-acquired pressure ulcers, or HAPUs, and concluded that we're not seeing the impact we should expect from our efforts to reduce stage 3, stage 4, and unstageable HAPUs. One recommendation is to improve the staff's ability to differentiate between early stage and more advanced HAPUs.
Yes, and we'll be talking about those hospital-acquired pressure ulcers a little bit more coming up. Hopefully we have the results of our poll. Okay, it looks like most of you picked prevention. A, prevention costs more than standard care of treatment. Actually, I'm sorry, I misread. That yellow is really faint. Skin-related products are commodity purchases. Very interesting. Well, it was actually a trick question because, in fact, if you're trying to set up a program to achieve optimal skin health, all of these statements are myths. And we're going to talk through those myths today. So let's start by looking at some common tensions that might be getting in your way and what you can do about them. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the tension between operational and clinical priorities. Can you go back just one slide? So, Kathy, you had some thoughts to share?
Yes, Kristen. I actually see this in my practice. Organizations are challenged to provide the best care while simultaneously controlling costs, which is precisely what you told us in the registration question. This can lead to a conflict. The operational side truly believes they are providing both the best products and processes possible, but the clinical staff views this as bean counting. Often this is because the clinical side doesn't fully appreciate the fiscal challenges of the organization, usually due to a lack of effective coordination and communication, and that creates the tension.
Yeah, so speaking of tension, let's talk about the fiscal challenges first. We see that financial pressures can lead to short-term thinking about prevention. Beth, what do you notice when you're in facilities?
Well, we often see that facilities will choose lower cost product in their prevention formularies without thinking about clinical outcomes and preventing risks. Of course, you cannot spend everything on prevention or you'd go out of business. Reimbursement incentivizes treatment, not prevention. However, the operational cost, wasted time, and reputational damage can actually offset the cost savings associated with bringing inferior products into your formulary.
That's a great point, Beth. And, you know, Kathy, is it possible to make a business case for spending money on prevention?
Absolutely. And sometimes you need to put the hard data in front of the CFO or the committee. There is growing evidence out there that new ways of thinking and active preventive measures are working. In one study, Dr. William Padula, who's an assistant professor at Johns Hopkins University, used a Markov statistical modeling to simulate the admission of patients to an acute care hospital from admission through a year one, and that's how Markov modeling works. He wanted to compare prevention methods to the standard care for managing hospital-acquired pressure ulcers to evaluate whether those prevention methods are cost-effective. And he showed that prevention saved cost in 99.9% of those simulations. And this resulted in greater expected effectiveness compared with the standard care approach. And what's more, the expected cost of prevention was almost $2,800 less than the expected cost for standard care. Another study that Dr. Padula did with others, which was published by the Joint Commission Journal, found that by adopting quality improvement interventions, 53 of 55 hospitals, that's 96%, reduced pressure ulcer rates in greater than 1 case per 1,000 patient discharges per quarter. These 5 effective interventions were called out by the study. To me, this really points out that you need leadership to coordinate the efforts on this. Administrative buy-in reinforces preventive behaviors for every single patient, not just those at high risk, and it leads to better outcomes because prevention pays for itself.
Kathy, you mentioned the role of administration and facilities in preventing pressure ulcers. The Padula study also noted that when the CMS guidelines around pressure injury never should events were instituted, they worked. We gripe about CMS, but these very painful regulations actually improved patient outcomes. So remember, the hallmark cornerstone of a pressure injury prevention program is skin health.
Yes, Beth, and let's remember, surgical site infection rates are also one of the biggest costs. We can really take the same concept and use it to prevent these other skin health issues.
So short-term thinking about slashing the bottom line in the moment can lead to long-term costs.
Remember, there are other operational costs besides just the cost of the products.
So another tension we hear over and over is about the role of the wound care nurse and the pressure that she or he is under. Wound care nurses are pulled in many directions.
Yes, Kristen, they really are. Everybody has so much more to do because the patients are sicker. So the volume for the wound care nurse has really increased. I've seen ratios as high as 1 wound care nurse for every 150 to 350 patients.
I've seen it too, Kathy. They're not just called on for consults at the bedside, but often they're asked to update evidence-based protocols, provide training, look at new products, and work on formulary, all while under great budget constraints.
Yes, they're expected to shoulder the full burden of skin health. Skin champion teams really help, but these staff nurses really don't have that specialty expertise. The decisions that come from the wound care specialty nurse and the skin champion teams impact almost every department in the organization.
Those are great points. And there's one more tension that people talk about quite a bit. And Kathy, you alluded to it a little bit before, that nurses aren't getting continual training and education.
That's right, Kristen. Despite new employee orientation with skin health and pressure injury prevention protocols, a number of studies have shown that most bedside nurses can't stage pressure injuries accurately. That means the pressure injury data being reported and acted upon by the organization is also inaccurate. For example, Glenda Mata and I published a study looking at the impact of converting from a usual care brief to a highly absorbent brief in long-term care. And we discovered something else really interesting. While we were educating the staff on the research protocol, we found that nurses did not differentiate accurately between pressure injuries and incontinence-associated dermatitis. When we taught them that skill, IAD rates increased and pressure injury rates decreased, even before the study officially started. However, after the study, which we followed the institutional rates for a few months, we actually found that those trends reversed again. And when we asked about it, it seems that the nurses forgot how to differentiate between the two conditions without the study coordinator standing by. Not to mention, there was staff turnover and there was a knowledge drain.
So what's your takeaway on the state of nurse education in skin health and wound prevention and care?
Kathy showed a great example, Kristen. We see that a lack of education, the right education, can cost facilities money, reimbursement, and reputation in the form of star ratings.
Which ties right back to one of the Padula studies and one of the interventions that improve prevention, visual tools. Cardinal Health has a visual tool called 7 Steps of Effective Wound Management. Webinar attendees will receive a follow-up email with a PDF of this educational poster and a video link on this topic to share with your staff. So we hope that the discussion so far has helped you to think about skin health issues and insights, and in particular, prevention in new ways. Now we want to discuss a new approach that can make skin health product selection a whole patient, whole system solution. We call it I.C.E. I, invite an inclusive group of stakeholders to the conversation. C, establish aligned success criteria at the start of the evaluation or initiative. And E, evaluate the results afterwards. To strike the right balance, it's important to have all of the stakeholders at the table, but the responsibility for skin health goes across departments. Everybody has a challenge in their job, and often there are different motivations and incentives across departments, as you can see on the visual. But a lot of systems end up with uneven trade-offs that favor finance. A different, more inclusive system approach would result in good products and good implementation.
You're right, Kristen. Without that, budget trade-offs happen. If a manager's success in the organization is measured only with financial benchmarks and doesn't include the outcome, even if the outcome cannot be determined until after the patient has left that department or has left the organization, then it may cost the organization more overall. It's critical for leadership to take a broad view. If we get all the stakeholders at the table, this thing is less likely to happen.
And we took a look at the people who you could be inviting to meet the clinical and operational challenges for your organization while improving prevention and skin integrity for patients. After the webinar, we'll follow up with a more detailed top 10 collaboration checklist that includes this list of stakeholders. So let's look at the second letter of our solution, I.C.E. The C is for criteria. Establish aligned success criteria at the start of the evaluation or initiative.
Well, I'd like to start by talking about the push and pull around brands. One of the biggest surprises to me as I've moved into industry are strong emotional attachments. A little more objectivity would be really helpful in coming up with the right brands and the right products, and even in thinking about formulary reduction.
Yes, Beth, I think there are many reasons why people don't like changing brands and products. You get really comfortable with it. And as a WOC nurse, you have 25 patients to see and 3 meetings, and you have to orient a skin champ, and evaluating another product objectively is a lot of work. So it really moves down the priority list in favor of a beloved brand.
And we'd be the first to tell you that depending on the product, the brand and cost may or may not be the indicator of quality. But you must still strike that yin and yang balance of being cost conscious, being aware of the hidden costs of change, and supporting clinicians' comfort and confidence.
Yeah, I did a consult last week, and this organization had 7 different foams. This is where the role of leadership should re-examine the health of their program. How many foams do we have? How many do we really need? Why did we choose this one or that one?
Well, that's why it's so important to establish your criteria for success up front in an evaluation. That way, everybody can agree to them. When you conduct an evaluation, then it can be more not blinded, but it can be more objective. Then, if you have favorable clinical outcomes that are comparable, or at least a balance between clinical and financial priorities, then you can develop a formulary that meets clinical needs well, but is cost effective. In my role, I've sat across the desk from procurement leadership looking at formularies, and we're all stunned at the duplication that we see. Like you said, multiple sizes and shapes of one product. And then sometimes just through special order, products can creep into a formulary, and before you know it, it's out of control.
So how do you work with customers to resolve this tension, Beth?
When I'm asked to bring or to recommend Cardinal branded products into a formulary, I'll typically only recommend 4 products. Now that's in addition to traditional wound care products like gauze and Xeroform or wound cleansers. But if you combine this lean, mean formulary with protocols and clinical objectives, you can really impact both patient care and the bottom line. At Cardinal Health, we have a team of wound care nurses and clinicians who can help facilities with systems of protocols and Cardinal Health branded products.
That's great. And all of that really helps to keep patients' skin healthy. Those are great insights and examples, Kathy and Beth. Thank you so much. So let's move on to talking about our customers. When we talk to our customers, they expect to do product evaluations before choosing products. However, they don't always evaluate what happens afterwards once the product conversion has been made. So the E in I.C.E. stands for evaluate your results afterwards.
Often the product conversion gets implemented and people move on because there's always more fires to put out. It can really be valuable to do a deep dive analysis after a product has been initiated to say, hey, was this really worth it? Did we meet or exceed our expectations? Did it show long-term benefits or have adverse events? Are we still providing evidence-based practice? We should be measuring and know what products are working for us. Let's look at the whole continuum of care, which is one reason why we got all those stakeholders at the table at the beginning, and look at that data. Leadership really should encourage wound care teams and stakeholders to collect the data, present that data to leadership, to middle managers, and to purchasing to help come up with the solutions, like reevaluating the total formulary to ensure it's efficient, effective, and cost-conscious. And it's just not about evaluating afterwards. It's planning ahead of time what you expect to have happen.
Budgets are done with foresight, but outcomes are measured in hindsight.
I agree, Kristen. We really need to do more planning of outcomes, just as we do with budgets. That will help control budgets in a more system-minded way.
So what you're suggesting, Kathy, is to take a longer-term view and find another way to look at this financially.
Yes, if people end up being readmitted, it's going to cost you more in the long run. And don't forget, if you factor in that CMS will not reimburse for stage 3, stage 4, and unstageable pressure injuries, the never events or surgeries that can result, it's essential to get this right, not just for the patients, but for the financial health of your institution.
Striking the balance starts when you break out of those silos and start talking to each other about skin health. With I.C.E., you can break the ice and start a whole new conversation, invite diverse stakeholders, establish criteria, and evaluate the trial and post-conversion results. That leads us to our second polling question of the day, and it's about your skin and wound care formulary. And the question is, when was the last time your skin and wound care formulary was reviewed? Now, while we're waiting, Kathy, what's your take on formulary reviews?
Well, yeah, I'm really interested to see what people have to say to this polling question. You know, I was thinking in hospitals and also our homes, we check our smoke alarms and replace the batteries every year. So there's a benefit to looking at a formulary every year.
That's a great point. Let's see if our polling results are in. Okay, within the past year. Great. That's when most of you said that you reviewed your skin and wound formulary. Good for you. So at the end of the webinar, we'll tell you how you can request a formulary analysis for those of you who would appreciate that, and we'll share which Cardinal Health products can help you address your clinical needs and economic priorities. Especially for those of you in the more than 3 years, and I don't know, and even the 1 to 2 years, there's a lot that's changed, and we'll tell you about that. So it's important to select proven products that achieve outcomes for your patient population, because every aspect of skin health is so critical. So we're going to take a few minutes now to highlight select products from our comprehensive portfolio, products that help you protect and treat the skin and also prevent skin issues. After that, we will offer you additional evidence that supports what we've been talking about today. Cardinal Health products and solutions can help you balance your operational and clinical priorities, because many brands that have been trusted for decades, such as Curity, Curlix, Kindle, and Webril, are now part of the Cardinal Health family following an acquisition in 2017. We'll start with our antimicrobial dressing portfolio. Our antimicrobial dressings do double duty, protecting wounds while fending off bacteria. Harish, can you tell us more?
Yes, Christine. A lot of things can cause infections, but taking out one potential risk factor can go a long way, especially among the high-risk patients. It is a lot cheaper to prevent rather than to treat. The science of AMD dressing, those are antimicrobial dressings, also known as AMD. They aren't a treatment for the wound. Rather, they are a broad-spectrum agent that provides an antimicrobial defense. The Cardinal Health antimicrobial line of dressings are impregnated with a mild yet broad-spectrum antiseptic, polyhexamethylene bhagwanide, also known as PHMB. These highly effective antiseptic can fend off bacteria that traditional products cannot. Our product resists bacterial colonization and reduces bacterial penetration within the dressing. Our AMD products prevent bacteria from contaminating the wound. Different brands and products are preferred for different uses. With an infected wound, they also prevent the spread of bacteria, like silver. It is another antimicrobial agent that is used. However, it can be much harsher to the skin. Silver is not selective. It will kill the good cells and the bad cells.
Thank you, Harish. Next, we'll turn to skincare and products that help prevent and protect, including one we're really excited about. So, Harish, what's all the buzz about Manuka Honey Barrier Cream?
Now, that's a great example of how alternative therapies are being adapted for medical care when they make sense. Manuka honey has been traditionally used for its unique antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties, and now for its potential to reduce reliance on antibiotics. In addition to Manuka honey, the product also includes 20% zinc oxide and a small percentage of menthol to add a cooling sensation without irritation. Zinc oxide gives the cream that thick, pasty feel. Also, this over-the-counter barrier cream has been approved by FDA to treat a variety of skin issues, including incontinence-associated dermatitis.
That was a great overview. So let's transition to traditional wound care. Cardinal Health traditional wound care offerings encompass products that were invented to treat all stages of the wound healing process and whose performance is supported by decades of research. In fact, Harish, you invented many of these products, right?
Yes, my R&D team is very satisfied inventing all these products because every wound is unique. With a diverse selection of quality, easy-to-use products, we help you create a successful Cardinal Health wound care formulary that meets each individual patient's needs.
And with the acquisition of Medtronic's patient recovery portfolio, Cardinal Health is now the market leader in traditional wound care, with a robust portfolio of beloved brands that have withstood the test of time. These brands are backed by clinical support and distribution solutions. Plus, we're staffed with clinicians trained on wound care and field-based certified wound ostomy continence nurses dedicated to providing product and clinical education, customer support for formulary analysis with our products, and evaluation and conversion support.
These products were innovative when they were first came to the market, and the science still makes sense. Curlix. What is so special about Curlix is that the fabric adheres to itself so that when you wrap a bandage, it does not slip. It stays in place on a head, forearm, calf, or any other part of the body. Excellent dressing. When this three-layer dressing absorbs exudate from the wound, it holds the fluid in the center layer, not the outer two layers, which keeps the wound barrier. Kendall branded products. Now, this beloved brand offers reliable, high-quality, advanced wound care products such as foams, transparent dressings, and alginates.
Thanks for that overview on wound care dressings, Harish. Next, we'll transition to incontinence, specifically premium underpads. When it comes to protecting skin integrity and incontinence, we are seeing a shift in thinking from cheap so-called chucks that you use to protect the bottom line to underpads as a key instrument in mitigating the risk of chronic wounds.
Well, if you are still using a polyethylene film barrier to protect the bedding and mattresses, that can create problem with excessive moisture under the skin. Once the skin macerates, it starts the breakdown of the skin, which can ultimately lead to incontinence-associated dermatitis and to a pressure ulcer.
And earlier we said incontinence-associated dermatitis is one of the highest risk factors leading to pressure injuries.
You're right. So it is important to think in terms of long-term value instead of just cost-cutting. With Cardinal Health premium underpads, the real innovation is that we have applied advanced diaper technology to underpads. The state-of-the-art top sheet, which touches the skin, has a silky, soft feel that provides enhanced comfort and dignity while helping to reduce friction and shear under the patient. The absorbent core, it absorbs all the liquids and disperses throughout the core, but won't release it back out, even when you apply the pressure on it. When the pressure is applied, the paper pulp and super absorbent powder material bond with the water molecule and convert into gel, keeping the patient's skin dry or drier, like it was before. Then the last component, which is the back sheet, allows moisture vapor transfer away from the patient while protecting the bed linens from body fluids, helping to keep the patient dry and comfortable. The Cardinal Health Premium Underpad is moisture vapor permeable, so it will breathe more or less like skin.
Harish, I understand there are operational benefits as well.
Yes, Cardinal Health Premium Underpads can help cut down on layering underpads or using multiple products for added protection. They are being chosen for bottoms-out programs that don't use briefs in bed to promote better skin health. An XXL premium underpad, which is extra large, can eliminate draw sheets because they are tested up to withstand 400 pounds of force, and because they do a better job of wicking and holding moisture away from the patient's skin.
So when you're dealing with incontinence, you have to look at the total bed spend, not just the price per chuck. It goes back to establishing those criteria up front. Are you protecting the budget, the linens, or the patient? Wouldn't it be best to use innovative science to protect everything and your facility's reputation too? Otherwise, it's comparing apples to oranges.
Absolutely, Christine.
So the last category we'll highlight is negative pressure wound therapy. When your patients get pressure injuries or present with one in stage 4, now there's a new way about thinking about it and treating it, negative pressure wound therapy with simultaneous irrigation.
Well, negative pressure wound therapy is all about applying subatmospheric pressure that is used to promote wound healing. In short, NPWT optimizes the wound environment through the removal of fluid and infectious materials. An important factor in the failure of a wound to heal is the presence of multiple species of bacteria living cooperatively in highly organized biofilms. The biofilms protects the bacteria from antibiotic therapy and the patient's immune response. NPWT has been shown to have an effect on biofilms.
Cardinal Health negative pressure wound therapy offers a big improvement compared to the market-leading technology. Tell us about that, Harish.
The simultaneous irrigation technology provides a simple way to help reduce bioburden and increase the speed of healing on your patient's wounds. We're going to show you the video. This video shows it constantly flushing the bacteria out of the entire wound to promote healing in a chronic wound, which reduces bioburden, speeds healing, and cleanses the foam and the wound. The difference is simultaneous delivering NPWT and irrigation. That combination is what has been proven to increase healing for uses like the one you see right here. This is truly a unique product, patented and proprietary to Cardinal Health. This new way of thinking empowers clinicians to do more with less, making complex wound care more manageable.
And about the technology, this same intuitive device can cross the continuum of care, creating consistency for a broad range of uses from hospital to home health care. In fact, Independence Medical and Edge Park are part of Cardinal Health, servicing the post-acute and home care marketplace and delivering products directly to patients' homes. As a healthcare partner, this is another one of the many ways we can help you with products that work together across the continuum of care.
And it is a great example of balancing economic and clinical priorities, making it easier to meet all your criteria. It has the feature you need with advanced technology and intuitive interface. It has been proven effective, and it is cost effective.
In the post-webinar email, we'll be sharing several case studies that highlight cost-effective treatment with clinical education. I love the case study that's up now. It's a negative pressure case study that showed necrotizing cellulitis in a patient with multiple comorbidities. In this case, simultaneous irrigation was applied for only one dressing cycle with remarkable outcomes. I hope you'll take the time to read it in its entirety.
Thanks, Beth. And Harish, thank you for sharing the science that goes into these products. I think you've shown that these skin and wound products aren't commodities. They're essential tools to achieving optimal skin health, and now part of the Cardinal Health product portfolio. So we've certainly covered a lot today, For each of our clinicians, I'd like to ask one more question. What's the secret to striking that balance between operational and clinical priorities?
An effective skin health program must contain both, must have strong collaboration and communication between operations and clinical. First, an objective review of the formulary should be conducted to eliminate redundant products, off-contract products, multiple SKUs of the same product, and even low utilization products. Then clinical should review their skin health and wound care protocols to make sure that they're up to date and that they relate products to practices. Then they've got to train to those protocols. Finally, I believe that clinical and operations need to have a strong collaborative relationship to make sure that formularies contain the products that are outlined in protocols so that cost-effective outcomes can be achieved.
That's right, Beth. It's really thinking across the categories and working together. And when you come right down to it, it's really all about relationships. Clinicians must work at developing good relationships with non-clinicians, with leadership as the umbrella. It's leadership's responsibility to foster personal and professional growth among both of those groups. A good leader lets people do what they do best, creates a work environment that supports their needs, and brings in partners and training to help them grow.
Thanks for sharing your perspectives, Kathy and Beth. Hopefully this webinar has shown you new ways to think about the importance of and the benefits, both clinical and financial, of optimizing skin health, the break the ice process for overcoming tensions, and of course selecting products that are supported both by science and clinical practice and cost effective, providing long-term value to the entire organization. So what's next? Following this webinar, you'll receive communications from Cardinal Health and Becker's, including a follow-up email from Becker's with a summary of this webinar and a link to a recording, an email from Cardinal Health about resources we've mentioned, the 7 steps of effective wound management, case studies, and a top 10 clinical operational collaboration checklist, including a link to a web page where you can connect with a representative or express interest in a Cardinal Health product formulary analysis. You can find that web page by going to cardinalhealth.com. Click on Professional Products, then Medical, and select Skin and Wound Management. You know, if you mix and match brands from many companies in pursuit of clinical and economic goals that sometimes seem to be in conflict, we invite you to request a follow-up from our team. And as always, you can visit cardinalhealth.com to learn about our diverse product solutions to help you protect, treat, and prevent wounds at every stage of each patient's unique journey. And that brings us to our final polling question. After seeing this webinar, which statement would you say is most true about striking the balance of operational and clinical priorities to achieve optimal skin health? Many departments and functions are responsible for skin health. Prevention costs can be lower than the total cost of care. Cardinal Health products and solutions can help you balance cost and quality. I believe all of these to be true.
Kristen, while we're waiting for the results, I just wanted to share that Dr. Padula, who is doing great research into the economics of pressure ulcer prevention, will be presenting 2 lectures at an upcoming conference in February. The AAWC, which is the Association for the Advancement of Wound Care Pressure Ulcer Summit, and that's in early February. And he will also be giving the keynote at the NPWT annual conference in March. This year's theme at the NPWT annual conference is around connecting science to practice.
Those will be great conferences for anyone who's interested in skin health. So let's see if we have our results. All right, I believe all of these to be true. Clearly, each one of these is a top concern that many of you share, and yes, all 4 of these answers are true. So let's now see if you have any questions. Emily, I'll turn it back over to you for instructions.
Thank you, Kristen, Kathy, Beth, and Harish. That was a fantastic presentation. We will now begin today's question and answer session. As a quick reminder to our audience, you can submit any questions you have by typing them into your control panel in the space labeled "Enter a question for staff" and clicking send. We will try to get through as many questions as we have time for today. All right, it looks like a lot of great questions are coming in from the audience, so let's go with the first one. We have an audience member who would like to know how Cardinal Health could help them after an evaluation is over.
Kristen, I'd like to take that one.
Great.
You know, we have a team of clinicians who are committed to not only supporting and training during an evaluation, but sticking in through conversion and even beyond to make sure that clinical practices are improved.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Beth. Let's move on to our next question. So we have an audience member who would like to know, how frequent should skin health education be for staff nurses?
Oh, I'd be happy to take that one. So staff skin health education should be done on many levels. You should really look at it from for all new employees so they understand the culture and the priority that skin health is being given to in the organization. You need to have both ongoing routine skin health education for staff nurses, but also the staff nurses aides and respiratory therapists. And then you should also have, that should be both informal and formal with competencies. And then also there should be something fun for the staff nurses. You could do grand rounds. You could have competitions. So anything to bring skin health to the forefront can be really important.
Those are great ideas, because what we've seen is that continual education really makes all the difference.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. So it looks like we have time for just one more question. How can we see Dr. Padula's research?
So Dr. Padula's research, obviously, we all can do, Dr. Google and find his work there. But we also can see some of his work presented on the NPWT.org website. And there has been an AAWC pressure ulcer synopsis from last year where he his research has been condensed for easy reading, and that's available on the AAWC.org website.
And that was a great question. So thank you for asking that, audience member. We'll add to our email follow-up links to the research that we mentioned today from Dr. Padula. So look for that follow-up email from Cardinal Health.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those responses. Kristen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank each of you for coming today. Thank you to Beth, Kathy, and Harish for your insights, and thanks to our webinar participants for your questions. If you still have questions, feel free to contact us or visit the website landing page to learn more at cardinalhealth.com. So with that, thank you, and we bid you a wonderful day.
Thank you. I want to thank Kathy, Harish, Beth, and Kristen for their excellent presentation, and Cardinal for sponsoring today's webinar. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars.